What is up, gamers? M107 here, and I've been away for a while, didn't really have access to any kind of gaming computer, but anyways, update 5.3 is going to go live next week. There was a huge patch note, and the update will provide one giant list of buffs and nerfs, handling changes for vehicles and aircraft, and of course, Battlefield Redux. So without further ado, let's see what we should expect. Just don't forget to hit the like button to help the video reach out to more people. Starting off with Battlefield Redux, a lot of you should already know what this is about, but for those who don't, let's just say it's a Redux version of special events from Season 2 to Season 4, with different maps and player counts, and some new rewards to claim, as well as some time-limited bundles. Battlefield Redux will be available until the release of Season 6 in October. I personally want to experience those old events because I didn't jump on BF 2042 from the get-go, and just can't wait to see how that turns out. I also have a full video on Battlefield Redux that will pop up on the top right corner. Make sure to give that a look as well. So the most important change in my opinion is vehicle count based on maps. What's going to happen is they're going to shift the focus in all-out warfare maps towards either air vehicles or ground vehicles based on player counts, locations, and stuff like that. We've only got two examples at the time being, Exposure and Discarded, that we're going to go over in just a second. But remember that every single base game map will have some vehicle count changes with this update. We just don't know the exact numbers yet. So Exposure is going to be more of an air-focused map after the update because it has more potential in open areas according to developers. For Exposure on Conquest 128, armored transport will be completely removed, but the number of attack helicopters will be increased from 1 to 3, which basically means you're going to see one of those everywhere you look. We're going to have 2 jets instead of 1. Utility vehicles will be cut down from 2 to 1 and civilian vehicles from 12 to only 6. On Conquest 64, however, things are a little bit more sensible. 1 less light transport, 1 more attack helicopter, 1 more light armor, 1 more jet, and finally, civilian vehicles will be completely removed from the map. For Discarded, they're focusing more on infantry and ground vehicles, so the vehicle count will shift towards heavy armor on the ground. Here's Discarded on Conquest 128, so we've got 1 less light transport, 1 less light armor, 1 less utility vehicle, and the civilian vehicles are going to have a huge change from 12 to only 4. On the other hand, we've got 1 more armored transport, 1 more heavy armor, and 1 more jet. For Discarded on Conquest 64, we've got no gunships and no jets, 1 more armored transport, and finally, 1 more heavy armor. Speaking of vehicles, it appears that people in EA DICE have decided to bless the attack helicopter. They claim that the armor/health difference between attack helis and their lighter variants, aka Nightbirds and stealth helicopters, are not noticeably felt, and they equally struggle against anti-air weaponry. And because of that, attack helicopters will now take 25% less damage from 30mm cannons on Wildcat and flag weapon explosions. So that's a huge buff for attack helis. I'm not much of a pilot nor a ground vehicle player, but this is going to cheer some fellow pilots up. That's not the end though. Gunner rate of fire for attack helicopters has been increased from 200 to 600, and the pilot tow ammo is increased by 1. On the other hand, gunner blast damage has been decreased from 20 to 18, and gunner starting damage has also been decreased from 40 to 25. The Camo 52 Super Hakum and the AH-64 Apache are now more similar in terms of controllability and maneuverability. All in all, attack helicopters will be way stronger and will piss off a lot of people. Thermal optics for gunners will be available at the cost of their ability to zoom, just like previous modern day battlefields like BF4. This should have been there from the beginning, but it's coming and I'm sure it's going to be cool. Camera positioning for gunners has also been tweaked to make it easier for them to understand the heading of the helicopter with a wider and better view. Moving on, anti-vehicle missiles will now deal damage to ground vehicles primarily through their blast. So that means we gotta aim to directly hit them in order to deal maximum amount of damage. These changes will affect all air vehicles that use anti-vehicle missiles. This is one of those changes that needs some time in playing to be able to criticize properly, so I'll just leave it at that. The LCAA hovercraft is going to receive handling changes and it won't feel drifty anymore, thank God. This thing feels like it's built for Tokyo Drift. It is absolutely impossible to control. It also accelerates and halts faster and can rotate from a standstill position after the update. That's pretty much everything about vehicles, but another important change is an engineer class nerf. The RPG and recoilless M5 will now have 17% less projectile speed. This already triggers me because they claim that these rocket launchers are used mainly against infantry and for sniping vehicles from long ranges, and they don't serve their actual purpose. The recoilless M5 was already lacking projectile speed to some degree, and with this nerf, hitting air vehicles will be so much harder. They didn't stop there and actually increased the weapon sway of the recoilless M5 while aiming down sights. I believe they're going to regret these changes sooner or later. I just hope they have the guts to rebalance them because nobody cares about dying to a direct hit with an RPG. That's just not a good reason to nerf the main weapons against enemy armor. Lowering damage output against infantry would be a better solution, even though I believe that is just ridiculous, but if it's a choice between bad and worse, I'd rather go with the bad one. Anyway, let's talk about Crawford. I'm one of those players that believe Crawford is just useless. At least in most scenarios, and not only useless, but can be instantly countered and disabled, and I believe it needs a specialist rework where they change the primary gadget from mounted Vulcan to something more practical. For now, we just get a simple buff for Crawford. The minimum damage of his mounted Vulcan is increased from 10 to 12, and the accuracy will be higher when firing for a small period of time. I don't know, maybe they think that these changes will convince players to try Crawford a little bit more, but I do believe that it's still a useless specialist in most cases. Some weapon fixes have also been considered in this new update. Apparently, extended mag for the AC-9 and subsonic mag for the AM-40 caused incorrect amounts of fire rate, which is weird, but it's history now. And lastly, the lore of Battlefield 2042 will be available in-game, also known as the Codex. You'll be able to read the lore for factions, maps, specialists, themed events, narrative hunts, and more, and as the game evolves, new Codex updates will also be available. Not a bad decision. I mean, there might be some people out there that actually care about these things. I just want to know how Irish and Pack became enemies from close friends in Battlefield 4. The rest don't really matter to me. So here's everything you need to know about Update 5.3. Rocket launchers got nerfed, vehicle counts for base game maps are rebalanced, attack helicopters got buffed, vehicles are now easier to control, and we'll have a complete archive for the lore of Battlefield 2042. The patch note provides more details, but I tried to cover everything that was important. If you have anything to say about the updates or anything about the channel in general, make sure to comment down below and let's have some conversation down there. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, stay cool.